Alright, so this is going to be part 1 to what if Tanjiro had Mercury breathing. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Bow in the presence of greatness. Right now that has forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness. That I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go.
Alright, so just like you heard at the beginning, this is going to be what if Tanjiro had Mercury breathing. So as you know, that isn't an actual style. Rather, this is going to be a style that Tanjiro creates on his own. The reasoning for this is that it is said in the series that it's not uncommon for people to create their own styles because they can't master the one that they're learning. For example, Mitsuri creates the love style because she didn't really like the flame style. So with that being said, let's actually get into the story. Now our story would start off at the point in where Tanjiro is training under his master Sakoji. Now the training isn't going well. It's a lot worse than it was in canon, and that's because Tanjiro isn't fit for the water style in this. So after a year of not seeing the results Sakoji wanted, using his connections with Gyomei, he sends a letter to the stone pillar Gyomei. The reason for this is because since he is the strongest pillar, he thinks that he could train Tanjiro. So this in itself had to take a lot of convincing from Sakoji, because if you know Gyomei, he doesn't really trust people, especially those younger than him, so children. And to him, that's exactly what Tanjiro is. But I feel like because Sakoji was a past pillar and he is a lot older than Gyomei, it would in fact convince him enough to at least train him for a bit. So Tanjiro would be off to go see Gyomei while his sister stays behind with his former master. Now when Tanjiro actually gets there, it would be most likely that Gyomei lives in some sort of Buddhist temple, as he's very religious. Here Tanjiro would also meet Genya, because if you don't know, Gyomei was Genya's master. He taught him what he knows, and that's why Genya can even compete with some of the other demon slayers, despite not having the talent for a breath style. So immediately, Gyomei would have Tanjiro train to see what his level is. The first thing that he would have him do is, well, farm, using a scythe to cut grain. Now the reason why he's doing this is because he wants Tanjiro to both build his muscles and also get used to using a sickle. The reason for that is because of the weapon that Gyomei used. Now it isn't entirely like this, but it is very reminiscent of a Kusarigama, which is a weapon in where it has a sickle, which is a short scythe with a chain connected to it with a weight at the end. Now if you read the manga, you know that it is very similar to his weapon that you see him use, which is only slightly different. Instead of a sickle, it's an axe. Instead of just a weight, it's kind of a flail. Now, Tanjiro would have a hard time at learning the Breath of Stone, and he wouldn't really be efficient in it either, just like the water style he tried to learn earlier. This lack in talent would actually bring both Genya and Tanjiro closer than you would normally think, because Genya has an inferiority complex. Having someone with him who also lacks in talent would be self-insuring. Essentially, he wouldn't feel alone anymore. So after some time would pass, Tanjiro would try to use techniques from both sides and incorporate it into his new weapon, that being a Kusarigama. That being said, it's not a normal Kusarigama. There are some modifications to it. For example, the sickle that would be there, its blade would be a lot longer, as well as the handle, just a bit. On top of that, the chain that would be used would also be longer than usual, as in reality they're not that long. I wouldn't say it's as long as the stone pillars chain, but it would be comparative, as well as the weight on the end would also be a lot heavier than normal, because in real life it's not that heavy. As well as the weight would also have spikes similar to the flail on the stone pillar's weapon, just to give it a bit more damage, if you will. Now, the way the two styles mix, I first have to explain what the focus is on the two styles. Starting off with water, the water style has basically a lot of flexibility and a lot of fluidity to its attacks, having the user twist their bodies in different ways. That's what you see in a lot of their techniques. This is also the same reason why a lot of the more flexible birth styles stem off of water style, such as serpent and flower and insect. While stone breathing is a bit different. It uses the ground underneath the person to generate powerful attacks, as well as being able to have very good defense and offense. Combine this with the range that it has with its weapons, and you can see why the stone pillar is one of the strongest, if not the strongest pillar there is. So with that being said, the style is going to focus on utilizing the ground as well as being flexible. Not only that, but the style itself is going to have 7 forms. Now the reason why I'm going with 7 is because stone breathing has 5 while water style has 11. So we split the difference and it goes in the middle, that being 7. So you guys can help me make some forms for the style. Like I said before, Mercury style is going to be based off the 2 styles I said earlier, water and stone. But for now, I'm only going to do 2 different forms right now and then come up with the rest later on. So as time passed, both Tanjiro and Genya would perfect their art, that being their 2 different styles. Now Genya, as you know, doesn't know a breathing style, rather he uses a gun. Now this will help Tanjiro in his own style, because since Tanjiro has a lot more range, he needs to be able to aim better. That's where Genya comes in to help him. And when Genya feels down for having lack of talent, Tanjiro will be there for moral support. Now, after that's done, let's get on to the Stone Pillar's opinion on this, since he is training Tanjiro. At first, he would be hesitant to let Tanjiro do something like this, but he is struggling with the other forms. But he noticed that he does have some sort of talent for this, so he would help him perfect it any way he could. He can't see, so he can't visualize what Tanjiro is doing, but he does have exceptional hearing, so he could hear how loud or how powerful the strikes that Tanjiro would be able to do are. So overall, his training would both build him up physically but also mentally, because remember, near the end of the series where they had to train like the pillars do, this is where the Stone Pillar shows off what he does, which is both the law carrying as well as the fire training that he did. So not only would Tanjiro be a lot stronger, as he has someone to train with talent unlike Genya, but he would also go a little bit further to make sure that he's strong enough to enter the Demon Corp. So now let's skip ahead, and this is where the end of the training starts. So Tanjiro would travel back to see his master as well as his sister. Here, his master, Sokonji, would have to test him to see if he's ready. Because remember, his past disciples died during the final selection, so it makes sense that he'd be worried for Tanjiro. So, just like in canon, he would want to see if he could destroy the boulder that he had him destroy in original canon. This being a Tanjiro that's a lot stronger than normal, would be able to do this easily using his first form. So what would happen is Tanjiro would swing the weight that he would have using the handle of the sickle. Here, rotating it would take a lot of force because the chain is a lot longer, as well as the weight being there. He then throws the weight around the boulder, it wraps around it, and he steps on the chain. This causes the chain to become tighter and crush the boulder. Normally, when someone would do this in real life, it would basically trip the person, because it would go around their leg, and then when you would step on it, it would pull them in and will trip them. But something like this is on a bigger scale. With this, Tanjiro proves to his former master, Sokonji, that he's able to pass the final selection. As a way to celebrate, this is where his former master would give him a new outfit for the final selection. This would also include the mask that you see Tanjiro wear in canon. This part is important later on. So with that being said, let's skip to the time and where the final selection actually takes place. So, just like in canon, the twin daughters of Kaguya would explain how and what is going to happen. The forest in front of them is filled with demons that are low quality, so it should be relatively easy. If they're not ready to fight demons, then this will clearly show it, with them most likely dying in the process. Everyone here knows what's going to happen. Here Tanjiro can see some familiar faces like Genya, but others he doesn't know. And if you're asking whether or not he would follow Genya or help him out, he probably wouldn't. He probably wouldn't even talk to him at this point, as he doesn't want Genya or them to be nervous, instead choosing to be focused on their own performance. So when they actually are in the woods, Tanjiro would have an easy time, just like in canon, of destroying any demons that would go in his way. It's only until someone comes out running and screaming. This is because there is a demon here that is way too powerful to be here. This arm demon, a grotesque figure that looks like it's just made up of a bunch of different arms. Tanjiro would be intimidated for a second, as this is the first high level demon, at least the highest that he's seen so far. This would also be on top of the fact that this demon would recognize the mask that Tanjiro would be wearing on the side, figuring out that it belongs to his master, Sakonji. So this demon would both feel angry and happy to see his nemesis's disciple, as it will give him some solace killing their disciple. So the fight between the two would be hard for Tanjiro, as the demon would recover a lot faster than normal demons, given the fact that he's eaten so many for so long. So as Tanjiro severs arms, they would just grow back. This means that Tanjiro needs a very powerful strike that will go through the arms all the way to the head. This is where Tanjiro would use the second form of the Mercury style. Essentially, it is a mix of both the water wheel from, Breath of the Water, as well as Whirlpool, but kind of combining the two with the chain and the sickle. So in the air, Tanjiro would gain momentum by spinning, and this would create kind of a powerful slice as he hits the ground. He would have enough strength with this attack to go through all the arms and go directly for the neck. With that being done, the arm demon would be dead, and Tanjiro would have pretty much no threat afterwards. So some time would pass, and this is where everyone would show up that survived. And this is where the twin daughters would also speak up and say what would happen next. That being the demon slayers choosing what ore they want to build their weapons with. This would also be the part where Genya would get impatient and actually threaten one of the daughters. This is where Tanjiro would have to step in, but not as much as he did in canon. Instead, he would say Genya's name. Genya not realizing that Tanjiro was actually here because he was super focused on just getting this done. Genya would back down, although he would be kind of angry doing so. With this, Genya's arm is not broken. We continue forward with everyone choosing their own ore. And later on, Tanjiro would eventually get his weapon. Like in canon, his former master Sakonji, as well as the blacksmith, would be excited to see what color his blade would become. But they are disappointed to see that it is black, because they don't really know what that means. And people who've had it in the past have been rumored to really not accomplish anything in their life. But this doesn't discourage Tanjiro. After he gets his weapons and he says his goodbyes, he starts to travel with Nezuko on his back in the box just like normal. Alright, so this is going to be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it to the end of the video, please comment down CS so I know you support the channel. And with that being said, comment down any ideas you have for this series, whether it be different forms for the breath style, names, and so forth and so on. So with that being said, this is going to be in the video. Check out my other social medias such as Twitter and stuff. And with that being said, this is going to be in the video. So yeah.